Hi everybody, welcome back to Country Girl. My name is Kathy Jarvis, and today we're going to talk about some peppers. Now there's a misconception around that you have to have a red pepper or a yellow pepper variety, but actually your California Wonder green pepper, if left on the vine long enough, will become a beautiful red pepper. Same thing with your banana peppers. A banana pepper is ready when it's like this. As it matures, it'll turn orange, and eventually it will turn red. These are all from the same plant. Now, your purple beauties will start out green, and then they quickly turn to a purple, and they stay purple. You know they're ready to pick when they get to the size that you want. So I went out and picked a bunch yesterday. I still got a bunch in there, but we're going to talk about how you can preserve your crop for the winter, because I've got way too many to use right now. This is just a few of them. So no matter how you preserve them, the first thing you need to do is wash them and sort them, make sure there's no bad spots on them, and then go from there. Now there are a few ways that you can preserve. You can freeze them, you can ferment them, you can dehydrate them, you can turn them into a pickle jelly. You can also do a far roasted red peppers in olive oil, and you can make a salsa out of them and freeze the salsa. But today we're going to do my favorite, and that is simply freeze them. Now when you freeze the peppers, you really don't have to do much. Like I said, wash them and sort them, and then just cut the ends off of them, take the seeds out if you want, and cut them into strips and put them in a freezing bag. And that's what we're going to do now. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is make sure that all of our peppers are washed. We're just going to take the ends off of them, slice them down the center, and remove the seeds that are inside. Now this is optional. Some people leave the seeds in. I don't like the seeds, so I take them out. You don't have to get every last one of them out, but as many as you can. And you just can finish doing that. Do that to all of them. Pull the membrane out. Pop the seeds out. Now, if you have a Harlem or open pollinated type of pepper, you can save the seeds in the red ones. Don't bother about saving the ones in the green ones or the orange ones. Wait until they get red. These have the complete ripe seeds in them. So if you're saving seeds for next year, save them from the red ones. Take the membranes out, take the seeds out, and that's all you have to do. Now once you get ready to freeze them, you can either dice them or slice them. I prefer to just slice them, or you can leave them whole. But I prefer just slice them like this. That way when you decide to use them, when you unthaw them or put them in the stir fries or whatever. If you want to dice them, then you dice them before they completely thaw out, and you have that option. But if you dice them now, you don't have the option of using them as strips like in stir fries. So you just finish like this. Now some people put them on a cookie sheet and let them freeze that away before putting them in the bags. I find that you don't really need to do that. They're pretty well dry anyway, so you can put them in your freezer bags as like this, push out the air or vacuum pack them. Make sure you label them, and that's all you have to do when it comes to freezing peppers. Okay, if you remember correctly, I said that my favorite way of preserving peppers was to freeze them, make sure you label them, and put them in the freezer. But my second favorite way is to dehydrate them. Now I've got a whole tote in there in the freezer filled already. So it's time to start dehydrating. And that's what we're going to work on next. So I'll show you how we do that. Okay, when you're working with the dehydrator, the first thing to remember is to keep everything clean, because it's one of the main things. What we do is same as when we froze them. We cut the ends off, slice them down the center, and remove the seeds and the membranes if you can. Get as much of the membrane out of it. Now when dehydrating, it's important to remember that you need to keep the pieces uniformed in the width and size of them. So sharp knife comes in handy. Try to keep them all the same size. And once you get them all cut up, you take them and put them into your dehydrator, which I'll show you next. Now different dehydrators are a little bit different. So follow the directions on that come with your dehydrator. This one is just a basic dehydrator, nothing's fancy. It dehydrates at 165 degrees, and it usually takes peppers 5 to 10 hours to dehydrate. Now you can dehydrate them in your oven. Set the oven to 125, and that will take anywhere from 12 to 15 hours. But follow your directions. Mine say to stack them with the handles at the first one, and then a non-handle, and then a handle. My handles have on here saying this side up, but just in case you don't remember, there's ridges down here on the bottom. You want the ridges to go down, and you want the top up here to be smooth. And once you've got all of the peppers in here, you put them on trays and you separate them so they're not touching each other. You don't want them to touch. And once you fill them all up, you've got them stacked the way you want them. Then put the lid on. Make sure they're all good. And plug it in and leave it go for the 5 hours. Come and check it, see if they're ready or not. And if they what you do is take one out of each tray, leave it cool for 30 minutes, and if you can snap it, it's dry enough. If it bends easily, it goes back into the dehydrator for a while longer. Now the beauty of this is that you can leave these as strips and put them in an airtight container and put them in your pantry, or you can grind them up into a powder form and use them. If you've got hot peppers, you can use them as chili pepper substitute, and if they're sweet peppers, you can use them as a paprika substitute. So that is another way of preserving your peppers. Now you'll notice I've been using my bare hands. I have not been using gloves. That's because all I have is sweet peppers. If I had hot peppers, I would definitely be wearing gloves. So let's plug this in and come back in 5 hours and check it out. Okay, after 5 hours, I've taken a sampling out of each of the different trays and I put them on this plate to see if they're ready. And to tell if they're dried out enough, you should be able to break them. And you should hear them snap once they get to room temperature. So these are all completely dry. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn off the dehydrator and let these cool down. And then I will take them and put them into a glass jar. You can use a glass jar, you can use a plastic jar, you can even use a refillable Ziploc storage bag. So you fill these up, put them in there, and I like to condition my vegetables just like I do my fruits. And that means I will leave them in these jars for a week. Every day I'll shake the jar, and check the jar, make sure there's no moisture on the outside of on the inside of the jar. Make sure none of the vegetables are sticking to the edge of the jar, and then put a top on them, seal them. You don't have to make a vacuum seal or anything, just put a top on them, keep the air out of them, and put them in your pantry, anywhere where it's not where they're not exposed to the light. And you can use these, just put them like this and throw them in, put them in your hand, and you don't have to reconstitute them or anything. You can just throw them into your soups and your sauces and your stews just like this, and use them as if they were fresh peppers. So that is the second way that I enjoy processing my peppers. Like I said earlier, you can also pickle them. You can make pepper jelly. You can make cowboy candy. You can roast them and put them in oil and save them that away. And a lot of these methods, you can also can them or you can freeze them. I don't can very much, mainly, in fact, I don't can at all. And it's not because I'm scared of it. I just don't like to can. I just recently got a 3rd-degree burn just when water exploded from just regular cooking. So I'm not too comfortable working around a lot of hot boiling water and hot objects. I much prefer to freeze the stuff or put it in dehydrate. And another thing is, I don't have room for all these jars. I mean, even when they're filled, they're fine. But you have to have a lot of room. And they don't collapse or anything when they're empty, so you still have to have all that room for the empty jars. And to me, I'd rather put the stuff in the freezer because I can vacuum pack it, I can squeeze it down, and take up much less room. So that's one of the main reasons I don't do much canning. But I really enjoy using the dried vegetables. But I don't start doing the hydration until I got enough in the freezer that I'm comfortable with, because I'll use the freezer stuff first, and then this is my backup plan in case my freezer goes bad, in case we go out of electricity and I can't get into the freezer. Because if you lose electricity, it's usually okay for a couple of days if you don't open the freezer. So we can use these during those days, and that helps a lot. So we'll continue to cool these down and put these in the jar, and I'll put these in the pantry. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope you've learned something from the video. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you would. It doesn't cost anything. And remember, dream big and follow that dream. Bye, everybody.